Welcome to Comical Recovery. I am your host with the mostest drama, comedian Jessica Byrne, creator of the upcoming cartoon Bud Ease, winner of multiple East Coast comedy contests, and 35 consecutive years of life experience in the School of Hard Knocks. Subscribe, hit the like button for recognition, tell all your friends about your new addiction because sharing is caring. Welcome to another episode of Comical Recovery. I want to do a quick shout out to my good friends that left comments and shared me on their Facebook page. Comments from Paul, Chad, Andrea, and Christina shared me on their Facebook page. I appreciate all of you spreading the love and passing me around like your favorite doobie. I know that's at the end, but I'm saying it now because I do what I want. Today's episode is about adulting. How about that? Adulting. I'm not great at it, but we're going to talk about it anyways. I'm work in progress. That is what I am. What is adulting? I had to ask myself that question, and the answer is part of adulting is not letting things like dogs barking affect or sway me from doing this all over again because I could be a perfectionist and this would be held up for 1,000 years. Or I could just let life happen and keep moving forward because I think that's part of adulting for me. Adulting, I wrote, actually was structure, consistency, and congruency. I don't believe I had any of those growing up. However, I'm working on them now. Why adult, you might ask? In my humble opinion, I believe that adulting for me can create stability and sanity, which is something I'm really striving for these days, sanity. And where do we learn adulting? Well, that seems like a silly question, Jessica. It is, and I'll ask a lot of them. You're welcome. Well, we got them from our caregivers, not necessarily your mom or dad. It doesn't mean that they give you all those things. Quite often, my grandparents were my caregivers in a lot of scenarios. And then I had a abusive person be my caregiver. That was fun. Because of all of those variables in the equation of my life, I have equated the outcome to be a bunch of crossed wires in my brain. I did things backwards on a constant basis. In fact, a lot of times I put myself in harm's way because that was more comfortable for me. And when I met nice people, I ran fast and hard in the other direction. But that was the past, and this is the present, so I'm not doing that anymore. How do we adult if we have no example? And how do we adult if we need to undo a strict critical example that we may have had? And my opinion is this: little tiny bits at a time. So I pulled out this happy little sheet that I have screenshotted probably in 2019 prior to my sobriety. And it is Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. You can Google it. You will find it. It's a triangle. At the bottom of the triangle, there are basic physiological needs. Now, when I read these off, at least to me, they sounded kind of silly, but only to the old version of myself. The new version of myself totally gets it. It's like, yeah, of course, that makes sense. So breathing is on the list. Old version's like, duh, of course, like everyone has to breathe. Old version's always Valley Girl, by the way. New version's like, we suck at breathing. We do, especially deep breaths. We are in constant panic mode and taking short breaths and just building up anxiety. So that is not helpful. And I am currently learning on a regular and daily basis how to breathe. It's a lot more difficult when you're in a trauma response to breathe deeply. However, every trauma response I go through, I learn a better coping tool in order to get me to that place of deep breathing. So talking with a friend is a good coping skill for me to breathe deeply, especially when they're trying to make suggestions that I just want to get angry about. I know that sounds really silly, but that's where I go. I go to angry, and that's stupid. I know that already. I know everything already. That's where my ego brain is. It's a great little fun banter back and forth. But when I feel that old part of me trying to resist suggestions from people that love and care about me, the new version of myself is able to engage in deep breaths and breathe through the things I don't want to hear. And that's helpful, because if it was on my own without listening to someone else, I would just be in panic mode and continue to have short breaths and continue to go down the tornado of a rabbit hole that is my mind. So that's the first on the basic physiological needs. The second is food. Also sounds super obvious. That's what old self says. Duh, food. But no, old self. It's not just food. It's food that's nourishing to my body, because, once again, when I'm anxiety-ridden, pouring 1,000 pounds of sugar down my throat because I'm emotionally eating is not helpful. Neither is drinking 3 pots of coffee. Not helpful. So food is something that I, quite frankly, have dipped my toes into a few times, but know in my soul I'm not there and ready to tackle that. I still have emotional eating stuff that's going on, and that's okay. Because even through that process of getting to the other side, there are new awarenesses and solutions that will come to me, help me, and we can discuss together. Then water is the next on the list, which I also suck at that. I do not drink enough water. I will go about a week and then be super dehydrated because, as I mentioned earlier, I love drinking 3 pots of coffee. I am ridiculous like that. Hence the alcoholism. Give me more of a bad thing, and I will do that all the time, all day, every day. Just because I gave up one thing does not mean I want to give up all the things. Sex is on this list. I personally enjoy abstinence, but if we're going to be explicit, that doesn't mean that I don't have a healthy sex life with myself. And I trust me. I trust that I'm going to be with me and me only, and that's where I'm at right now. But that is on the Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs, so something to be aware of. Sleep. This is a fun one for me because I personally love to get about 4 hours of sleep, and once upon a therapist, she mentioned this idea of, do you think that you don't sleep longer because you are avoiding nightmares? And as soon as she said it, I was like, yeah, that is probably what I'm doing and sounds really smart on my behalf. So thank you for mentioning that. Still going to only get 4 hours of sleep. I don't suggest that for you, but currently that's working for me. So until I burn myself out completely, I'm going to keep on doing that one. Homeostasis, which is the balance of body chemistry. And I think that brings me right back to food, because obviously alcohol and drugs are not a part of that equation anymore for me. But food can totally throw me off of my balance of body chemistry. So can the lack of water and probably breathing, but we can only look at one thing at a time. Let's not go overboard. Excretion, that's a fun one. One thing about food and a food diary that I love is that is something that I take note of when I'm excreting. And my mood is absolutely affected by that. Thank God for nutritionalists, because those people I trust, and that is when I came to that awareness. Then from there, we have safety, love and belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. It's funny because the bottom layer we can't get past to safety, love, esteem, self-actualization until that part is like solid ground to stand on. So what I will say to end this discussion is that my first year of sobriety was about learning to manage my emotions. You know, the second half of the first step says that my life was unmanageable. But honestly, since 14, the only thing I really knew how to manage was my drinking. And that was nearly 20 years of my life. I just tried to pay bills and not get in trouble when I drank. But what that really looked like, if I'm going to be 100% honest, is it looked like finding someone else to pay my bills while I drank. And I'm just glad that I don't live in that space anymore, that I can be honest and I can be on this journey of sharing my character defects with all of you and continuing my awesome healing journey. And I hope that my sharing will help you on your healing journey. So thank you for listening, sharing, subscribing, and passing me around like your favorite doobie. Remember, laughter is the best medicine and sharing is caring. See you next time for more comical recovery with your friend and host, comedian Jessica Byrne.